Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the Juno YouTube channel. So today is sort of like a bad day for America, not only because of coronavirus, but because of, the fact that, we're basically just going back into stage 1 of what was originally supposed to be the only COVID round, if you guys know what I mean. So before we do get into the news, if you guys are new to the channel, please leave a like on the video, subscribe with the noties on, and yeah, let's get into this. So before I do get into this article from the Washington Post, I do want to let you guys know that I do have coronavirus, so I'm like really raspy. It's really hard to talk, and it's really terrible experience. And one of the scary things about coronavirus now is that I feel like it's maturing. If you guys don't know, pretty much viruses mature over time, and I feel like this one is actually maturing really quickly. And when it spreads to people over time, it starts to change its foundations and its symptoms, and now it's starting to be really nasty. Like, it's one of the worst viruses I've ever heard of and felt, and that's probably why it was released. China. Like, did you really have to do this to us? But yeah, guys, that's just something I wanted to point out, was that I do actually have the feelings of it. Sort of like, I'll explain some of the symptoms that I have actually. So it all started with a sore throat. That's the first thing that happened. The sore throat was okay for the first day, but the second day it was terrible. Like, you couldn't even swallow. And then on the third day, you get like really drowsy. You start getting like weird muscle spasms, and actually the muscle spasms are worse if you do work out. Like, my shoulder is literally rippling like a wave. Like, if you guys ever see muscle ripple syndrome, it's where like you extend your muscles and they start to ripple. It's basically that, but on steroids. So after that comes the crazy craps and the anxiety of going to bed and having asthma attacks. It doesn't stop there. It gets even worse. Like, you literally feel, it doesn't really matter that much about your age, but most of the time you will feel trouble breathing at some points. Like, and I don't really know if this is for everyone, but it just feels kind of like strange. I don't know. It's like a really awkward virus because it's slow, and it doesn't mature as quick, and it's way longer of a virus than influenza, for example. But yeah, that's pretty much all of my symptoms. So that article that I was going to show you guys, it's not only coronavirus cases that are rising, now COVID deaths are too. And before we do start reading, I'm pretty sure that the reason that these cases are rising is because people are realizing, hey, the lockdown's over, I'm gonna go party with my friends. And now that it's back up, it's matured, and maybe now we're more prone to deaths. We don't know. For weeks of summer, it was a seeming paradox of the coronavirus pandemic. Cases in the U.S. were rising, but deaths were falling. To the Trump administration, this was evidence that its strategy for combating COVID-19 was working. To medical experts, it was only a matter of time before the trajectory changed. And now it has. Nationwide, deaths have begun to rise again. In some of the worst-hit states, especially across the South and the West, new death records are being set daily. As the virus-scarred summer wears on, public health specialists say the numbers are almost certain to continue to climb. Even if we could magically lock everyone in their room and no one transmits to anyone, we'll still be seeing an increase in deaths for the next several weeks. Because, as we do know, it's going to keep on infecting us and get worse as time goes on. It's a really strange virus. It gets worse as time moves on, even when you have it. It's like, if I'm exposed to some toxin, the more I'm exposed to it, the worse I'll get. But for this, if you're exposed to it once, it takes your body so long to actually start fighting it that by the time it starts fighting it, it's been like a week. Let's continue. Said Catherine Troisi, an epidemiologist with UT Health School of Public Health in Houston. That grim assessment came as the U.S. on Friday set another record for total cases, with more than 76,000, including a new high of nearly 15,000 in Texas alone. And I'm pretty sure I actually saw another story where there was like 85 infants under the age of 1 that got all infected in the same county. So yeah, it's not doing pretty well. More than 900 people died, matching a death count of recent days that has consistently hovered just below 1,000. That is well beneath the toll during the virus's most devastating stretch in April, when 2,000 or more people were dying daily nationwide. But it was also well above the totals earlier this month, when the average number of daily deaths dropped below 500. More than 136,000 people in the U.S. have died of COVID, the disease caused by the novel coronavirus. So if we go down here, it says Trump administration officials and the president himself have repeatedly sidestepped that view and used lower mortality rates as an argument for why concerns about a coronavirus resurgence were overblown. When you look at the mortality rate, we're seeing that our efforts here at the federal government have been working, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany said this week. Experts say there are legitimate reasons mortality rates are lower now than in the spring, when COVID ravaged New York City and other major urban centers. For one thing, doctors have learned new techniques for attacking it. We've gotten better at treating patients so they're less likely to die. For another, the latest spike of infections have been concentrated among younger people, many of whom have contracted the virus while at work, bars, or restaurants. They're generally less vulnerable to severe consequences, many of whom who have continued to stay home despite economic reopenings. But that phenomenon can only last for so long as working-age Americans meet up with their elderly parents or grandparents. And if you guys don't know, pretty much older people are at so much more at risk of dying from it than we are. It's almost like crazy what it can do to you. We have this invisible anxiety to the virus that only appears when we realize we have it. You should have seen the reaction of people around me when they realized I had it. They basically went into a full-blown panic attack. Like, it's that scary to us. Like, we don't realize it at the time, but then when we actually do get it, it gets pretty scary. So they go on to say, young people are not living in a vacuum, said Farshad Fani Marvasti, Director of Public Health at the U of A College of Medicine, Phoenix. They're interacting with people who are more susceptible. Yep, that's true. This is likely contributing to the spikes in deaths. So I actually don't think that's the only reason. I think that since the virus is continuing to change, it could just be because it's some sort of proteins have changed, some sort of DNA, I don't know, that could make young people more susceptible to it. We don't know yet. In Arizona, home to one of the nation's fastest growing COVID infection rates, the average daily death toll has risen by around 60% just in the past week, up to 91 on Friday. The cumulative number of dead in the state topped 2,500. And if we go down here sort of a little bit farther, we see some hospitals in surging areas are also suffering critical drug shortages. Sergio Segarra, the chief medical officer for Baptist Hospital of Miami, said the 11 hospitals in the Baptist health system ran out of their remdesivir supply on Friday. And that's one other thing I wanted to touch on, is that it's getting to the point where we're sort of returning to that stage where all of the hospitals just ran out of treatment for the virus, and it just became like an explosion of cases and a ton of people in the waiting rooms and all that stuff. If you guys can hear that, there's a storm in the background. But there was another thing that I wanted to show you guys. I actually have a Quora. Surprisingly, I have a Quora, and I write on there pretty much every single day. I answer questions, and one thing that I will never forget, basically, I responded to a question about what is the coronavirus like, and somehow it got 1.6 million views or something crazy like that. I'm just gonna look for it quick. Guys, so I'm at the page. It turns out it has 1.4 million views, 774 upvotes, and 23 shares, along with, I'm pretty sure there's like 40-50 comments. I'm not sure, but pretty much This is basically what I wrote down. And keep in mind, this is the first time I thought that I had coronavirus on the way back from visiting Moldova in Europe. So I said, I had it. The first symptom that I had was scary, shortness of breath, and an overall feeling of impending doom. When mucus starts to spread throughout the air sacs because of your cells and their willingness to fight COVID, you start feeling anxious, tired, and you can't breathe properly. Is this the worst part of COVID? No, not by a long shot. The worst part of COVID is when you get these torturous, untreatable headaches, spiking fevers, sharp pains in your back, and holy, the lung pains. Feels like water is sloshing through your lungs, and yeah, COVID's more serious than we initially thought. Hope you're healthy and well, Vlad. And I don't know why this exploded so much, but people just believed in it, and I did too. Turns out everything I said here ended up being correct. What I had before was not COVID, but this is the worst feelings ever, and they're actually right. This bottom paragraph where I wrote down the symptoms, the torturous, untreatable headaches, they're there. They're persistent. And there's studies saying that if you have these like consistent headaches, that you'll recover from it faster because your system's going for it quicker. And spiking fevers, that's also good. That means that your body's able to fight it. Sharp pains in your back is a sign that's severe, and the lung pains is also severe. Like if you have the water feeling, you most likely are either super old or super lucky. And yeah, that's pretty much the article I wrote, along with another article from the Jeff Bezos newspaper, if you guys want to call it that. Pretty much that's all I wanted to cover today. Bottom line is, COVID's getting serious, and a lot of articles, including mine, are covering this. I have it. I can attest to it. It is the worst feeling ever. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you liked the Minecraft gameplay in the background. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.